Hi everybody, welcome back to Introduction to JavaScript, and this is your first lesson. And within this lesson, we'll be reviewing history of JavaScript. Now, I know not everybody is into history lessons, but the reason this is important is because whenever you explore about JavaScript or इस कोर्स के अंदर भी जब हम dive in करेंगे, so we'll come across a lot of terminologies like TC13, ECMAScript, ES versions, ES6, ES5, ES 2015, and I can go on. So to understand what those terminologies represent, उसके लिए ये history lesson थोड़ा सा important है. So let's dive into it. So JavaScript started as a scripting language, a client-side scripting language, something that runs on your computer and within your browser. Now when I say browser, तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि browser acts as a compiler. That is true and that is also not true. ऐसा क्यों है? ऐसा इसलिए है कि browser is a package in which you have user accessibility tools, you have, user profiling tools. So it's, there's a lot going on there. But at its core, we have a JavaScript engine. For example, Google uses V8 engine and Mozilla Firefox uses SpiderMonkey. So that is one of the major problems that JavaScript faced back in the day, that there was one language and there were multiple browsers and hence multiple JavaScript engines. So to maintain standards across all those engines was quite tough. So JavaScript today is quite extensive. The landscape of JavaScript is quite extensive. It is being used at server side. It is being used to develop mobile applications and front end frameworks. तो काफ़ी popular हैं. You might know about them: Angular, React, Vue, the top three of them. So all of them use JavaScript to build a single page application and progressive web applications. So let's get into statistics. So 67.8% of developers were employed as JavaScript developers. And these stats are just from, 2019 and 2020. That shows the popularity and demand for JavaScript. Another motivation for you to learn it. And 95.2, which evaluates up to 1.52 billion websites, are using JavaScript in one form or the other. इस परसेंटेज के अंदर अभी वो परसेंटेज एडेड नहीं है of those frameworks which actually help you build mobile applications in iOS and Android. So 95.2% at a global scale is a huge number. So moving on. So this is not a hyped up heading, the browser wars. It was actually the case in early 1990s and mid 1990s, where Microsoft was up against Netscape. So Netscape had this product of Navigator, and Microsoft had Internet Explorer. And in 1992, Brendan Eich came up with JavaScript in just 10 days. A lot of people say 14 days, but a popular opinion is of 10 days, so we'll go with it. So one thing about JavaScript, which is really weird, और ये सिर्फ पहले की बात नहीं है, ये अब की भी बात है, recently भी, कि there's a lot of renaming going on. For example, JavaScript first was named Mocha, and then it was named LiveScript. And eventually, as it grew in popularity, the community renamed it to JavaScript. इसके पीछे भी एक story है. So when I started JavaScript, coding in JavaScript, so I was like, it's much more affiliated with Java. And I'm sure a lot of people feel that way, which is not true. So Java is a very mature object-oriented language. JavaScript, not so much. There is, object orientation going on there, but most of it is as syntactic sugar. We'll actually explore that within our last week when we work on objects. So what happened is that Netscape actually renamed LiveScript to JavaScript because Java was very popular back in 1990s, and they thought they can pull off some steam, pull off that fame from Java, and get a buzz started. So that is what exactly happened. When JavaScript came in, there were a lot of comparisons. हर कोई JavaScript को Java से compare करने लग गया. But what happens when you actually compare a very mature language like Java to a very premature language like JavaScript? Well, JavaScript failed miserably. And for years, it was just known as a UI glue. So then a phase came in 1997 when the community grew, when the popularity of JavaScript grew. Now, there's one thing that you should understand. Whenever a popularity of a language grows, the community grows, the community grows, the functionality grows. And when the functionality grows, the development demand grows. अब जब development demand grow कर रही है तो उसके लिए standardization बहुत important है. This is something Netscape realized and they headed towards European Computer Manufacturing Association to actually document a specification or standards for JavaScript that the community can use. So the very first specification document was named as ECMA 262. So this is where ECMAScript was born, a body that can be used further in the years or will be a central body to actually standardize all the community needs. And well, एक body तो बन गई, लेकिन in 1997 to 1990 there were 3 revisions each year, although there were 4, and nothing worked out. All these business giants had different business prospects, जिसकी वजह से nobody aligned. And this is where JavaScript and the community suffered. Now, this phase was the most important phase in the JavaScript history. ECMAScript 5, which is also known as the rebirth of JavaScript. ऐसा क्यों है? Let's see. So, after a long struggle till 2008, now अब ये बात समझने वाली है कि 1990 से लेके 2008 तक there was no growth in JavaScript. काफ़ी libraries आई जिन्होंने workarounds भी दिए to the community, because obviously web pages evolved or websites evolved, functionality evolved. So, but then 2008, a very interesting thing happened is that ECMAScript 3.1 was adopted throughout all the browsers by consensus. कि ये जो revision होगी, it will act as a baseline for all the browsers, and every browser has to meet that. So interestingly, this version was renamed to ECMAScript 5. So hence another renaming convention here. And by 2011 another version was released, लेकिन इसमें मज़ीद कुछ standardization की चीज़ें add की गई, कोई feature नहीं add किया हुआ. But by 2015 ECMAScript 6 was released with a huge feature set, something that is still known as a gift to the JavaScript community. And this is where JavaScript became a general purpose language. So later JavaScript का ये जो version था ECMAScript 6 का was renamed to ECMAScript 2015. 2015, so you get the idea. So a lot of things were going on at this moment. So the conclusion, JavaScript had a very climatic and very dramatic history. But यही चीज़ अगर हम गौर से देखें तो it actually shows the struggle of the community and of the ECMAScript body as well to actually unify all these browsers, and all these business heads in one line. लेकिन एक चीज़ जो काफ़ी कमेंट की जाती है in the community वो ये है कि the reason why JavaScript worked is because of its dynamic behavior. It doesn't need a compiler, it compiles dynamically. तो ये feature obviously Ajax के through हमारे web pages को मिला, and a lot of people say that Ajax did save the web or Ajax did save JavaScript. So ECMAScript, I hope you have clarity now of what ECMAScript represent और किस तरह से versions आए और मज़ीद भी ECMAScript के proposals in line हैं. So ECMAScript का काम सिर्फ ये है कि to save internet from breaking, because one wrong feature, one wrong line or one wrong line of code can break the whole internet. So that is why ECMAScript or ES versions are released frequently in every year so that they can provide some ease to the community in form of some feature set. Well, so I guess we should conclude here. इस लेसन का टेक अवे सिर्फ ये है कि JavaScript's future, or the landscape for JavaScript is getting even more extensive year by year. और इस प्रपोजल्स को भी हम थोड़ा सा देखेंगे, इनके बारे में भी हम डिस्कस करेंगे, और ये भी देखेंगे कि हाउ यू कैन यूज़ सम ऑफ द ES प्रपोजल्स और उनकी कुछ स्टेजेस जो होती हैं. बट that will be covered in the forthcoming lectures. So I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.